Buddy, hello.
Hello.
Hello. I see lots of people popping into the room, and I'm going to wait until a little more video and audio is connected. Lots of familiar faces and some new names that I don't know. So hello to Jane in England. Nice to see you. And hello to Lucy. Nice to have you with us again. It's been a while and we missed you. Hello to Annette. Great to have you with us today. And Robin, thank you for joining us again today. It's great to see you. Karen in Arizona, hello and thank you. Beryl, Collins' mommy in Chicago, great to see you. Pete in Florida, that doesn't exactly look like you today, but it's good to have you here. And Janet and Peter in Toronto, great to see you today. And Isabel in Florida, great to see you. Nancy, nice to have you with us today. And Ida coming in from Cambridge, Mass, nice to see you, sweetie. And Patrice, nice to have you with us. And Rick and Sarah from the DC area, great to have you. Amy Appleton, also from the DC area. Bonnie from Idaho, nice to see you. I see Carolyn from Idaho right below you on my screen. And Norris, nice to have you today. Anne, Adele, Lisa from Indiana, nice to see you. Sandy, great to have you with us again. And Dan, nice to see you again. Marcia, great to have you. Lynn and Arlene, nice to have you. Diane, Caroline, Lisa, and hello, Busy. Nice to see you coming in from Wisconsin, I think. It's great to have everybody here today. Lots more folks in the room who I can't say hi to directly, but I'm really happy that you're here. Also going to say hi to everybody on Facebook Live. And today is the first day of our special event, Singing for Racial Justice, that we are doing here in the Daily Antidote. And I am going to actually be passing the baton over several times during this 2 weeks to one of my two co-hosts, Reggie Harris from upstate New York, or Dr. Kathy Bullock from Berea, Kentucky, are both going to be helping to host this moving forward for these 2 weeks. And I'm very, very delighted, happy, excited, and really pleased, and bet you'll all be pleased too not to have to hear me again and again. So here is for today's host, Reggie Harris. Reggie, thank you so much.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. And yes, hello to all of your beautiful, bright faces. And Joe, we are never tired of hearing you and seeing that smile. We have two wonderful presenters today, two wonderful song leaders. So we're going to get right to it because we want to get the music flowing. So first up is someone who's been part of this community since it began and who is part of so many vocal communities around the world. So we just want to give a big shout out this morning and say thank you so much for showing up, Ysaye. And what do you have for us today?
Wow. Well, thank you for having me. I would like to do a little exploration of Amazing Grace, because I think everybody knows it, but not everybody knows some parts of it, not musically, but historically. So I want to just say that I will do this in 3 different ways. I want to do it with everybody singing along in the hymn fashion that we most all know. And then I want to sing it in a very Black way, in a style that we call long meter. And when we do long meter, we do it for a long time. And you'll understand why. It takes 5 minutes to sing 1 syllable. Not quite, but almost. And then to end up, I want to do it in short meter, which is really kind of, has a little beat and you can shake your shoulders to it, okay? So if everybody is ready, let's do John Newton's Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Now, I grew up in a Baptist church in New York City. And I have had the experience of listening to a congregation of older Black folk singing Amazing Grace and other hymns in a style that's called long meter. It's called long meter because it takes a long time to do it, so just settle in. This is how long meter goes. I know you got the point. I could go on, but I won't. I'd like to go actually from long meter into a style called short meter. Short meter is more fun because it has a pulse. And so sometimes when we were singing, we would just hit our thighs like this. 1, 2. It wouldn't be our thighs sounding like this. I'm banging on the table right now. But if you hit your thighs, you could keep up with what was going on. Amazing grace, amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Oh, so let me tell you, every line is going to be sung twice. I'll sing Amazing Grace, and you sing Amazing Grace, and I'll sing How Sweet the Sound, how, okay, back and forth like that. It's like a call and response, but I'll sing both just to keep us all on time. Here we go. 2, 3, and amazing grace, how sweet the sound, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch, that saved a wretch, that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was off, I once was lost, but now I'm found, but now I'm found, was blind, but now, blind, but now, blind, but now. Oh, it was amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch, that saved a wretch, that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I'm found. Now I'm found. Was blind, but now, blind, but now, blind, but now I see. And I thank John Newton for writing that in 1748 because we all like it a lot. Thanks, y'all.
Hey, that was amazing. Talk about bringing the grace into the room. You say you took me right back into the Nazarene Baptist Church at Nice and Lycoming Street in Philadelphia.
All right now.
And I will say that all those old folks singing, I now have to just in my present incarnation think about how old those old folks weren't.
Right. That's right. There you go.
Beautifully, Lisa. Thank you so much. Let's give Ysaye another
You are so
round of
welcome.
appreciation.
I'm so glad to be here today.
We are so glad to have you.
Thank you.
And coming right up is Shodekeh, who is a breath artist and a professional beatbox artist. I love his term. He says he is an innovator in residence at the Towson State University.
All right.
Yeah, he's here to bring us an experience of breath and song this morning. Shodekeh, it's so wonderful to meet you, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. Um, so what I want to talk about today is basically a small, brief history of my evolution and journey from beatboxer to breath artist. But first, one thing I would like to do is if there's a way to post this question in the chat room, the question I would like everyone to address, either internally or through the chat room, is this. What sort of relationship do you have with your breath? How is your relationship with your breath in terms of functionality? How is your relationship with your breath in terms of expressiveness? And then lastly, how is your relationship with your breath in terms of using it as a creative medium unto itself? beyond functionality, and beyond expressiveness, because we all would know what it's like to sigh. We all know what it's like to wake up in the morning and yawn. We know what it's like to catch your breath after you're running somewhere. But moving from functionality, expressiveness, and then possibly creativity, I want you all to think about that. And if you have answers to those questions, feel free to put them in the chat space. I would love to see some responses. So I started as a beatboxer at the age of about 8 years old, 1986, being raised on Dougie Fresh, Biz Markie, Buffy the Human Beatbox. Became a serious practitioner around 1997, my freshman year in college. Became a professional in 2006. So I had inspiration from breathing techniques and beatboxing. It's very core to the art form. So on one side, that was the paternal lineage of this African-American craft and practice of beatboxing. But when I was exposed to playing music for dance classes by way of Vincent Thomas, Linda Denise Fisher Harrell, formerly of Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, I started to see how my breathing was affecting people moving and dancing in real time through Horton technique, through experimental movement, choreography. It was amazing. And that's when breath art became born for me in 2006. And now I'm in a space of codifying what those things are: musical breath, breath movement, expressive breath art, and breath music in general. So now, with that context, what I would love to do for you all is first invite everyone to take in a great big inhalation, exhale, and one more time. Go as deep as you can. Actually, one more, and this time, close your eyes, be in the moment with yourself in the space that you're in, and one more inhalation. And now this has been my creative journey from beatboxer to breath artist. Thank you.
Oh, my. You have given us a master class in 2.5 minutes. Oh, my. I realized in that moment, and I'm sure all of you as well, of how much of my lung capacity I do not use because those first breaths, and then hearing you as you were moving from breath to breath and putting color on that air. I realized I just had to breathe. I had to breathe in, and I just realized there are sections of my lungs that I haven't touched in months.
Wow.
So
Wow.
thank you so much. And we had some amazing comments of people in the chat room. Robin said, "Anxious breather." So many of us, I think,
Mm,
yeah, just embodying that anxiousness, that frustration, or whatever is going on in our tenseness
yeah.
in the way we breathe.
Hmm.
Um, Nancy from New Hampshire says, "Getting more and more connected, especially while singing."
Yes.
Um, Carolyn says, "Breath supports vocalization." How true that is. Um, and Bonnie, "Not always in sync, but becoming more aware." Jane says, "Trying to get back to the flute after many, many years. Also picking up the recorder. So satisfying."
Wow.
Yeah. And Deborah says, "My breath is my life. Centers, feeds, is a wake up call to how I'm doing." Amen to that. Love it for aiding communication and singing. And Patrice says, "I think we are all especially aware of our breath now." Uh, with masks and
Thank you.
virus in the air and wondering if others might be contagious. Wow, yeah, that was a powerful thought. A breath that we so often take for granted. Now we're thinking about what it might be bringing into our bodies.
Yeah. Actually, perfect segue.
Yeah.
I'm leading a master class on of breath art and breath music for the Folklore Village. They're based in Wisconsin. So if you look up Folklore Village online and search for breath art and breath music, you'll find my upcoming master class I'm teaching August 22nd.
Oh, great. Okay, we can pop that into the chat room.
And
And
I'll have more time to go more in depth into
yeah.
some of the inspirations, some of the sort of the indirect mentors that I've had over the years in terms of solidifying all of these different elements and sources of breath art and breath music because it exists virtually everywhere from martial arts to dance to beatboxing to singing. As a matter of fact, the classic song "Breaths" by Sweet Honey and Rock is another inspiration of. I see you there. Another great reference and inspiration of breath being used in a way that's creative. So I've had many inspirations over the years. So thank you, Ysaye. Thank you, Reggie. Thank you, everyone else here.
If I could ask you, and Issei as well, um, in this time of rising awareness and of increasing frustration at times, is there anything that you're doing or anything that is rising out of this time for you, breath-wise or song-wise? Issei, why don't we, if you want to share, you're muted right now.
There we go. But I find myself being much more aware of my breath and my breathing.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that I get impatient when I never experienced my own impatience in the way that I do now. And the classic way is, just get it out, however you can, and I'm like, no, slow it down, just slow it down.
Mhm.
It'll be all
Mm-hmm.
right. It'll be okay. So yeah, I thank you for calling our awareness to it in large measure.
Thank you.
Much
Yeah.
appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm still exploring and still researching and practicing, but the ideas and the concepts are improving all the time. Hi, Auntie Joyce.
I know that for myself, this time has brought so much additional outreach and so many additional questions coming rapidly questions of import in terms of where it is we may be headed. And I found that 2 weeks ago, some of that frustration crept in, and for my own uh, self care, I had to initiate a little policy for myself that before answering any question, I would take a deeper breath.
Mm, wow, that's powerful. With the current cultural zeitgeist of the era of George Floyd that we're living in, Breonna Taylor, I Can't Breathe, that, and then the respiratory attacks of COVID-19, I'm thinking more about breathing creatively and sharing this more and more with everyone, more than I ever have ever before.
Hmm.
So there's so much that I have to do with this work. So I really appreciate being given this platform to share this in this new breath culture that we're living in. Thank you so much.
Let's get to a couple of other comments. Rick and Sarah, pretty aware and good functionality, but have trouble controlling my breath for singing. Not expressive in any conscious way.
Oh, wow. That's
Uh, Harriet shares its power and gifts for singing, yoga, anxiety, physical pain. Yeah, physical pain. Breathing into the place where the pain is, I know has been very key for me. Essential in life, indeed it is. Lucy says, not really aware of breathing except for singing and when I wear a mask.
wow. Wow.
That's a
Nick,
new poem, by the way.
what's
I
that?
think when I wear the mask, I think each of us could contribute a line to that poem. It just hit me,
Oh, that's
because
amazing.
our experiences are so different.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
when I
amazing.
wear a mask. I noticed yesterday when I went out that for whatever reason, wearing the mask yesterday was easier.
Hmm.
And I have no real sense of why that might be. But I just found when I put on my mask and I had to go into the post office, and I was in the post office for a few minutes before I realized that the mask was there. And it wasn't a bother. And I think there's something mental that's happening.
I've grown accustomed to my mask for breathing out and breathing in.
Oh, Harriet says, Amazing Grace. And I love it. Lisa says, dude, that was amazing. You even fogged up your camera. Oh, yeah. LMG says, I wish you'd been there for my modern dance classes. And Carolyn, all the sounds of nature.
Hmm.
We have, oh, so many others. Rick and Sarah again. I got carried away into a windstorm on a plane or somewhere around an old house. I also found myself breathing with you. I did as
Oh,
well.
wow. That's amazing. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I was hoping that that would happen on its own. I was,
Yeah, well, it certainly did for me as well. So,
Yeah.
oh yeah, the color on the air. Um, any other thoughts that you all are having about breath in this time? And I know the Amazing Grace. You know, I we didn't sing a lot of long meter in my church growing up. There were only about two of our elders who would invoke that. But I certainly visited other churches where that was, and coming out of the great experience. You want to talk a little bit about the where that was born and experienced, Ysaye?
Wow. Well, it certainly was a long time ago,
Yeah,
like in
yeah.
the 1700s, I think, when people were allowed to gather, and you could probably talk more about this than I can. I'm not sure how the tradition evolved.
Hmm.
I think, the hymns were not written by us,
Right.
and we did not read because we are oral. And so the process of lining out is where someone says, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. And then everybody says, ah. By the time you get to the end of Amazing, you've forgotten what else was going to come. Okay. Anyway, anyway, that is the tradition, and it still goes on in a lot of Black churches. I'm not aware of it as a tradition in white churches, but in Black churches, it still goes on. And it's the elders who do it, who keep that tradition growing. And all of us dread the day when we are young that we find ourselves joining in as if we've been doing this all our lives. So I just want to put that point on there, that it's something that grows in your body. It really grows in your body. And the intensity of the words take on additional intensity every time you sing it, because it just settles in. And I think it has a lot to do with breath.
Yeah.
You know, you decide that you are going to, okay.
Putting a filter on that air, you know, the thing that struck me, and yeah, I felt that impatience when I was young, you know, as in these old folks are taking forever.
See,
I have stuff to do.
thank you.
But I also realized, and I'm sure that both of you, in the terms of oppression and struggle, those gatherings were the only place that people could allow themselves to acknowledge the pain and the suffering and the sorrow. And they realized, I think, over time that they were, or maybe they realized it quickly, I don't know. They realized that they were not in a hurry because the pain was deep.
Right.
And I heard those voices of those folks in my church. We had song sessions on first Sunday afternoons before communion, and we would sing for 2 hours before we would do the regular communion service. And embodied in those voices were the tribulations and the pain of a whole week's worth of experience.
Yes.
And us young folks, we didn't have that. So it took me years to be, as you say, grow into it and begin to realize that there was such astonishing power, not just from the song itself, but from the expression of voices in the room. So
Yes, because people could sing their pain into that room.
yeah,
And it would be understood and accepted by everybody who was there.
yeah, yeah.
It's a very, very sacred process. But you know, when you're young, it's like, let's get the heck out of Dodge. You know.
Well, I've also noticed that song form's changing, and I visit churches quite often, and with not to put too much of a tag on it, but in many of the modern churches, there is a tendency to want to get to that end point quickly. And there've been a lot of discussions, I know, in songwriting and song leading communities just around the process of allowing song to do its work. And some of the conversation is around the fact that we come into these spaces, whether worship spaces or whether community spaces, with an effort to sort of push through and get to that place where we feel better. And I think those old folks knew that that takes some time.
Yes, and in addition to that, that might have been the only time that was given.
Yeah.
You know, because we all have we got to be at the Masters, we got to. But when you are in a sacred space, you are in church, and you are with your community, your family, and you agree, you know, that this is yours. You take all the time you need. And sometimes when Miss Jones gets started, you just, Lord have mercy, you know. but you have to give it to her, because in the same way that you give it to her, she would give it to you.
Amen to that.
Everybody in that room would give you the space you need. So you take as much time, and after a while, you understand that you own that space in that time.
Yeah.
And no matter what happens, you own it. So.
Busy Graham had a question. Shodekeh, am I right that you have collaborated with Matt Olwell and Emily Olison?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
What was the nature of that collaboration, if you want to share?
It was an interesting fusion of traditional Irish and Breton music, basically being brought into the 21st century by bringing me in as the primary percussion section for the majority of the album.
Mm.
Wow.
That we did in 2015. I believe it was released the following year. So if you search for cybertrad.com, you can check that out.
Cyber Tread.
Yeah, cyber and then
Oh,
trad
okay.
and then little RAD trad.
Okay. So that's as in traditional.
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Karen says, in a meditation practice I do, I breathe in through my feet and draw energy of the earth, and breathe out through the top of my head and send it into the universe.
Huh.
Mm.
I know that a friend of mine, Bob Frankie, talks about his practice before a performance, and I know that he got it from somewhere, but he sits on the floor and, well, probably not on the floor anymore. We're all getting older, but he sits in a space and then visualizes that, and he visualizes energy coming down through his body and into the earth to ground himself. So, there are some very powerful ways that people connect to the earth. Um, Sandra says, that was amazing. I was totally transfixed by your breathing performance. It reminded me of being in Maine on the ocean the last couple of weeks. Aren't we all joyous for that? Makes me feel centered in the way that hearing the ocean does. And some other really wonderful connections. Is there anything that the two of you would like to
I
add
have a
into this?
question.
Yeah.
I would love to learn more about the story behind Breaths by Sweet Honey in the Rock. Um, I would love to hear more of how did that come about? Because it's just a fascinating example of breath music and breath art.
Mm. Actually, it was a poem, and I'm like having a moment of not being able to remember his name. Hopefully, it'll come to me. But it was a poem that I read, and as I read it again and again and again, it sang itself to me. That's all I can say. I don't feel like I wrote the music. I feel like the music was given to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been thinking about it the whole time that we've been talking, because I think that it was something that really actually made me stop and think about breath and what breath was and what breath does.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. Should I sing a little bit for you?
Please.
We got time?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, yes.
Okay. The words say, listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. And at the end, yeah, exactly. We can do that together.
I love that.
But that was the poem sang itself to me. I can't even claim to have written the music.
Mm.
Yeah.
You feel like the
Well,
breath was given to you as well as part of the composition?
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't think I could sing it without acknowledging that the words and everything were floating on that breath, and then
Mm-hmm.
allowing the breath to speak for itself.
Mm-hmm.
Listen. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. It was
Beautiful.
a gift. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
think that in this time of renewing our breath, both in a figurative and a physical sense, it's important to acknowledge that so much of what surrounds us is frustration, anger, tension. And I've been inviting people to not necessarily try to push that tension, that frustration away, but I think this morning, the phrase that comes to me is that we need to breathe into it. Um, the tendency in our culture when we encounter difficult things is to seek a distraction and to find a common point where we feel comfortable. so that we can uh, dismiss those feelings. And I think the beauty of this time is that so many more people are coming alive and so many more people are becoming aware. It's a really opportunity as a community, I think, to embrace this moment in breath and stay with the discomfort, but not be paralyzed by it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
To have a confidence that it will work itself out.
Yes.
Every breath
And
that we take in has to work itself out.
yeah, yeah,
And we can't always control that.
no.
So
No, we cannot.
No, we cannot. I'm so grateful for Joe and for the Washington Rebels for providing this antidote every day, and for the community that has gathered as I look into all of your faces and I see each of you coming to sing every day. And whatever it is that we're all carrying on that day, in that moment, to be able to sing into it, to breathe into it, and to express it. You know, we talk about creatively expressing, to find our place in the choir and find ourselves singing in our own voice. And hopefully today will remind us all to support that in a more authentic and a more connected way. So thank you to both of you for this gift this morning or this
Thank
afternoon.
you.
We've already crossed over.
Yeah.
nice to meet you, Shodekeh.
It's an honor to meet you again.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you
Indeed,
very much.
indeed, indeed. Thank you all. And we're going to say goodbye. And thank you, Joe, for this opportunity to lead. You'll get emails out and information. Stay connected to the community. And I'm going to go off to do a singing session with about 7 other people on voting rights,
Oh.
and another important thing that we're working on in this time. So we'll be singing out the vote.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we'll say goodbye to everyone, and thank you so much for spending this time with us today. It's really been a beautiful afternoon start for a day that still holds promise.
Yeah, it does. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Reggie. Thank you, Ysaye. Thank you, Shodekeh. That was amazing. Absolutely
Thank you,
amazing.
Reggie.
Best one yet. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody in the room for joining us.
Yeah.
And goodbye. We hope to see you tomorrow. So goodbye, Jane and Lucy. Goodbye, Annette. Goodbye. Thank